And we are live. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on this occasion. And how's everyone doing out there on Radio Land? You got your Omi Inca 7 live coming to you. And I am broadcasting from 2 channels. And we are going to get this show on the road, ladies and gentlemen. So just bear with me. I'm getting all tangled up here. And this is giving me a little problem. So we're gonna hold tight, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna put on some music right about now. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. We are live here on Blog Talk Radio Station as well as on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me on YouTube. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. If you haven't yet subscribed, can't get this hooked. Oh, I got it upside down. No wonder. Okay. If you haven't yet subscribed, ladies and gentlemen, you want to go down below, subscribe, and also leave comments. And for your friends, please be ready to share with your friends and invite your friends onto the station. I'd like to invite you to be a part of our radio show. You can call in to Blog Talk Radio Station at 760-539 3247. Lock that dial in, little G. And if you are interested, please come into our room at Blog Talk Radio Station / Oracle Divination Network, and you can talk to us live while on the phone with us. Now, we have an interesting topic to talk about today, and I hope you're ready for it. I really do, because it's long overdue. And as some of you know, I was on the YouTube channel last night explaining my connection with the Kemetic faith. Now, I've always told you that I was Yoruba and a part of IFA, and that I was initiated into IFA. However, I was not initiated into the Kemetic teaching, but I studied with them. So they're almost similar, with an exception of the geographical area that they are representing. And I wanted to make it plain and clear that my training and initiation came from IFA. Now, the topic here on the advertisement, I don't know if you are looking at it. It says, what is the higher structure of IFA and who are the characters? Now, we sometimes get this so confused. We think everyone is a priest. And it's unfortunate that people take possession of this faith and they want to describe what the hierarchy is and what the structure is. And sometimes they don't get it right. And you have everyone thinking that you have to be a priest. They're devotees, they're Iwas, they are Apete Bs, they're Inyalades, they're Babalaws, and they all have a responsibility, ladies and gentlemen. They are not all one and the same, and they're not cut from the same cloth. Some of them have different responsibilities, and we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to be breaking it down so that you can understand. There's a lot of young men that are very interested in traditional African faith, and a lot of them are going about getting initiated, and a great number of them who come out of the prison institute, they just give up on society, and they don't want anything else to do with organized traditional religion. So a lot of them lean towards the Islamic faith, or they might end up inquiring about the traditional African faith, Icon, Vadum, Santeria, or Ifa, or Kemetic. They're all one and the same, but just different geographical areas that they cover. A traditional African faith over in the Western world can look similar to the one over in the Northern Hemisphere. What we need to understand is that anything to do with Africa in general, it concerns us. And we can practice from all parts of Africa and get different Elohims and get different angels like Orishas and Elohims that are different from each different names, but are similar in the structure. Now, we want to break down the hierarchy. Who is the boss? And do you believe in God? And is there a God that you actually manifest? Or do you believe in polytheistic many gods? Let me break that down to you real quick. There are many gods out there that we all worship. And money can be a god for that matter. And we put our faith in things, and we actually can arouse and create our own gods. Yes, let me tell you that. We can make anything into a god, and we have made anything into a god. And we have gone about our way and making sure that we let people know, this is what I believe in. Whatever you put your time and energy in, that's your God. But for the record, we do believe in a monotheistic concept. We were the world visionaries who believed in a one world order and a one God concept. We were not the polytheistic who believed in many gods. Now, yes, I'm sure you say, well, Oh, well, what about all of those gods like Shango, Ishun? Shango is one of the thunder gods, isn't he? Well, what about those gods that they call Yam and Ye? Those are not gods. They're equivalent to your angels. They are orishas, and they are not gods. Let me break down the structure for you before we get too far gone. I know you have plenty of questions, and I know that someone told you that this is voodoo. This is devil worshiping. Somebody might have even said that, oh my God, that is antichrist. Let me explain to some of you African American people who have forgotten that you're African American. You cannot seek your slave master's God. You cannot think that your slave master's God is going to allow you into his heaven. You must come away from that concept and thinking that Christianity was created for you. It was not created for you. We created it and gave it to other people to civilize them. We didn't need civilizing. We already had a worldview and we had a heritage. But there were many other people who were not civilized who needed civilizing. So don't let anyone tell you that you had to be civilized so you wouldn't be a heathen. We were never heathens. We always had a worldview order and knew where we stood as African. So when you get caught up in the saying, I am an Aborigines, then you can't tell where your concept of heritage came from because you don't know what they were teaching you here on the northern area of the Turtle Island, but you do know of the traditions of Africa. So let's stop thinking that we are weird because we are involved in fetish teachings or we are involved in paranormal things. These are our traditional ancestors' things that they use for eons. This religion, IFA, and the Kemetic teaching is one or two of the oldest traditions and ways of life on earth. Most of your other religion are Johnny come lately. Christianity is a baby on the scene, if you have not checked your history. Now, I did explain to some that I transitioned out of Christianity into a traditional African faith. Now, I didn't just transition into it. I start looking at all the geographical areas of the teachings of Africa tradition, the Kemetic, as well as Buddhism, as well as Ifa. And it's okay if you want to vacillate between all of the African traditional religion from different parts of the continent, it's still an African traditional faith. Now, one can go from one Kemetic teaching over to Ifa. It's not a lot of difference. They just have different names if they have called them, but they're the same concept. Now, you must have some order, just like in any regime of the military order. There has to be some structure, and you must follow the chain of command. You just can't go skipping into the commander's office unless you follow the chain of command up the ladder. And there's always a procedure, and so is it with the African tradition. As a matter of fact, they were one of the first ones that laid down the chain of command, and other organizations adapted their concept. That's right. These so-called bush people that you think had no order, they had structure and order, and they had a way of life. And they didn't need civilizing because we civilized the whole world. We were already civilized. Okay, for you people who are still not convinced that this is not some bush religion, let me explain to you. Religion is a concept that ties you to something. It puts you in bondage. You're in further bondage. Africans do not believe in a religion. They believe in a way of life. Now, based on a way of life. That is the procedure of how you're going to get up in the morning and wash your face, how you're going to take care of your hygiene, what you're going to prepare for your meals. All of this is taken in consideration, and there is a procedure. Now, the hierarchy, let's get back to that. You need to reach God, right? And don't go telling me, oh, me and God had a little talk yesterday, and I got down with God, and I told him what was on my mind. Come on now, honey. You cannot go skipping into glory thinking you're going to get an appointment with God without following the chain of command. What chain of command? There is one. And that's probably why you keep getting the party line and you can't get through to God, because you haven't followed any chain of commands. It's a commander. Commander's in order here. He's not going to let you get through the gateway, not on his watch. You have to follow some procedures. That's right. The Africans organize themselves and they delegate, and everyone plays a role. This is how you keep the community balanced with harmony. Have you ever suspected that we may be out of balance here in the United States of America? We may be out of harmony. That's why there's so many killings and deaths and shootings and no control, because no one has properly delegated and followed the chain of command up the ladder. You can't get to glory by just making a phone call, calling on God's name. You can't get to God just because you are praying. That's a behavior modification. Meditation is a behavior modification too. And sometimes it works much better than calling God out, demanding that God do something for you. That is not the structure and the way of the African. That's why we have not been successful in reaching the higher source. Yes, your higher self, because you were dealt a contract that you signed and that you promised to adhere to. And when you sat with Oromala, you whispered in his ear that you had a destiny. How do you suppose you were going to fulfill that destiny? Well, IFA helps you fulfill your destiny. It helps you to find out what your destiny is and fulfill it. Is there anybody else on this plane that is helping you to get to your destiny? I don't think so. That's why we have too many lost African Americans right now who don't know their purpose and their destiny, because they have not received the right hand of Ifa. They have not had a head reading or head washing. They're all available for those traditional Africans. It is a way of life. It is automatically understood that when a child is born, they're given a destiny reading and they were told the purpose of why they came here. And they begin to be on a path. That's why so many of us African Americans are off the path. We've missed the path. We are trying to adhere to the Caucasian concept of life. We are trying to adhere to an actual monetary gain, when in fact Africans have never placed money high up on their list for any of their goals and objectives. Now, let me explain something to you. You are dealing with the Westerners' world, but yet you can call Africans, theologians, method as bush people, fetish people, High John the Conqueror, voodoo, witchcraft. You've all been fooled. You've all been cahoots. Someone has stolen your religion, your way of life, and left you believing that we have avoided concept of African tradition. Well, let me introduce you to our higher chain of command. If you wanted to speak to a God in the African faith, you would be a devotee. And someone called the Apetabi would possibly be working with you as a devotee, helping you to get in order for devoting your life to worshiping God and making sure you had what you need in order to go before the Baba laws, because they weren't allow you in the presence of a Baba law until you met the criteria for going through the chain of command. Now, who's the Baba law? Oh, you don't know who the Baba law is. The Baba law is the priest of the mystery of society. He is the doctor. Everybody knows when the doctor is in the house. He is a divine doctor who actually is a servant of Oromala. He serves Oromala. He is also the medicine man, and he is the one that brings harmony to the community and balances it. And he makes sure that every 5 days, he is divining to see what the needs of the community is and to see which energies he must ward off that could cause dissensions in our community. He is what you call the coach, the diviner, the high priest, who basically divines and gives us a reading from the oracles. That's right. But wouldn't you know it? The women work in duality with the male. It's not just some God and no woman to balance off the genders. Africans thought of all of this, and they made sure that they had a balanced concept. The Baba Law is the father of the mysteries of the world, and the savior of Oromala. He's a servant of Oromala. Now, because there is balance and order in what the Africans teach, they also teach that they need to have a female called the Inyanify. The Inyanify performs spiritual work just like the Baba Law. She can also do readings and give readings to various people who are suffering. And she also monitors the community to make sure that it's in balance and in harmony. Yes, she is the assistant to the Baba Law, but she also gets initiated. So she is a high priestess who gets initiated, and she assists the Baba Law. But don't stop there, because she needs her assistant too, that one that will come in and assist her and the Baba Law. And she's a petty bee. And she is the wife of the IFA Baba Law. And she is also the wife, she's the wife of the Baba Law. And upon being a wife, she works with the Baba Law and she assists him. And she is also one that is an actual devotee. She devotes her life to working with the devotees and helping them to uphold their responsibility in praying. And she's a strong businesswoman in the community. And she works with helping her family for their divination and herself and her husbands. She is one that will be by the side of her husband. And she will assist and aid the Iyanify as well as the Baba Law. So their assistance to the Baba Law. He doesn't do all this by himself. And you have the Iyanify, you have the Iyanarisha. Iyanarisha is also one of the devotees that works as an assistant to helping things for the priesthood. She also gets initiated, and she works with the parents and the families and the communities. Now, you have to have an order, and that order has to be laid out appropriately. You just cannot come into knowing God. No one gets to see God and live. That's right. God exists on the inside of you. God placed that portion of himself, that ratified energy in you, and he called it Ori. So you get to embrace Ori because he was clothed in matter, even though he's ratified fire, just like God is, and he will burn your tail up if you try to embrace him. But God knew best, so he clothed Ori with matter so you can run up to his face and embrace him and meet him face to face because he resides within your being. He's in your bosom now. get into a difficult situation. Let something stir up in your world. Let discontentment stir up. Let confusion stir up. Then God will show up right in you. Then you will have your own personal God that you can confide in right on the spot, and you can cooperatively work with that God, and you can co-create together. That is why God will never leave you nor forsaken you. He's riding with you. He's your posse. He's on your back now. So now understand how we can say that you must have your own personal God, but then the Christians keep telling you that you can go and see God whenever you want. Call him up and tell him what you want. If you need this, just call him up and tell him what you are. Jesus is on the main line. Tell him what you want. No, it don't work like that, baby. No, baby sister, it don't work like that. Jesus ain't on no main line. Oromala is Jesus. And he is your friend. He is the one that sculptured you and molded you and knows your inception from your beginning, from your end, and he knows the date and time of death that is planned for you. He has the ability to hold back the time of death for you. He is the one that sculptured you, but God gave you the breath of life. So you have his essence, you have his likeness, and you have his attitude, and you have his abilities. So you're still running around here saying there's no structure to that religion, and there's no order there. There is much order and much balance, so much so that the Eurocentric had to borrow from the Africans their concept of church. The Christian churches wasn't created by the white folks or Caucasian. It was given to them by the Africans. Most of all of the religions were handed over to the people from Africa because we were civilized and we wanted to civilize others and we wanted to keep order and balance in the community. And for years, the Africans didn't have to fight physically with warfare. They did agitations. They warded off their enemy with agitation and performances. And whoever could perform the best would win that round. They didn't take off heads. They didn't shoot and blast people away. They knew that that was not the order of war. And they weren't using the ammunitions to kill anyone. So they knew what was best for the world. But someone came in and dropped a bomb on us and have been dropping bombs on us ever since. And our people have been dying, unnecessarily dying. But yet we are the ones that say we have reasoning. No, we don't. We have lost the capability of reasoning with our higher self. Do you know you can have an appointment with God and reason with God and talk to God, but you must have an appointment? Do you have an appointment? Do you have an appointment with God? Because you sure can't go skipping into glory without following the chain of command and the higher up. Now, I think I did a pretty good job of breaking it down for you so you can understand that there is no disorganization in a traditional African faith that is old as IFA or the Kemetic faith or Icon. They have long knew that God would come down and visit them. That's why the Dogon people sat on the rocks and waited for God to come down and visit them. And they were the one that formalized the Sirius Star B, yes, I know, and A. And they did it without a microscope. They were able to contact God and have relationships with God and commune with God. That is the same thing we do with our ancestors. They haven't gone anywhere. Yes, we are ancestor communers, not worshipers. We sit down and we call our ancestors and we talk to them like they've never left us. They are but nothing but energy. How could they leave us? Energy can't die, nor can it be recreated. It only dissipates. So it's all around you. So when your loved ones make their transition, start calling them. They're all around you. They haven't gone anywhere. Yes, we're fetish people. We believe that our ancestors can open up the way for us. They can clear out all that rubbish. So when we get ready to go and strut our stuff, we can go through it uninhibitedly. Because our ancestors have called it. They made the call. They said, clear up that area down there. Omiika's on her way down. Make sure it's clear. The traffic is clear so she can get through. And we get caught up because we're worshiping Christianity, and we so caught up and tangled up and can't get away, and we in the prayer line constantly and can't even get a prayer through because we don't even know that we can petition God, because God needs us. So we can call on God so he can know experience through us. But yet we are still sitting here thinking that God needs us, but we're going to beg God for everything. You don't have to beg God for anything. God said to remind him of his promises to him. And said to command him. You can command him. God, I'm commanding you to stop that rain outside. I need to get through. He gave you some commandments, but he didn't say that you had a private line to him. There are some chain of commands that you must go through. Yes, I hate to tell you, you cannot reach God in the method that you're using now. You must have a process, and you must have some hierarchy, okay? And these can't be just any old people. They have to have good character and good conduct. What does IFA require? IFA requires the highest character of us so that we can reach our destiny. And without this good character and conduct, we cannot reach our destiny. And the purpose of IFA is to live a lifestyle of non-repentance and to live a lifestyle that's holy, because he said, be ye holy, for I am holy. And then with that lifestyle, it will come easy for us to transition through things because we are keeping harmony and balance in the universe. And you cannot create mischiefs in the universe and think that you are going to be untouched. You will be touched by this harmony in the universe if you keep up destruction and destroy Mother Nature. And that's what a lot of us have done. We've disconnected from God. Now, when God brought us here, we were connected. And you weren't supposed to disconnect the babies from him. You were supposed to lead them back. But they've gotten so far away from God, now they have to relearn what it is like to be in the arms of Abraham. In the bosom of Abraham, they have to relearn how to communicate with God and how to fellowship with him. But don't go telling me that we are bush people and that someone said that we are considered as witches and witch doctors and warlocks. Come on now, you got us confused with somebody else. I think African people came way before the warlocks. We're not a part of that group. You got that all confused. This is your ancestral stuff, and you are shoving it away, and you are letting somebody whisper in your ear, don't worship that. That is not of God. That is Antichrist. Okay, what is Christ? Christ is a title. He's only wearing a title, okay? You can wear that title too. You can be a person of Christ-like behavior, and you can wear that title just as good as Jesus did, because he even told you greater things that you will do than he did. So where are your signs and wonders? And why aren't they following you? Because you're not doing your oracle readings, and you're not doing your corporate prayer with the IFA group. A lot of you black men who are getting out of prison have been sick and tired of following a dead religion. And I know you're looking for something that's real. I know you're looking for the real deal, because while you was set up in that prison, wasn't nobody coming to see about you, and you couldn't hear nobody pray. But when you first came out and got a glimpse and understanding that your ancestors are black, that you should have been praying to, now you realize maybe you could have been praying to the wrong God. Now, Everybody is biting for your time. And that means that these white gods are biting for your time. Now, how in the heck are these white gods going to be your ancestors? If they wanted you dead while you were here on this earth, just think they're not doing you any favors while they're deceased. And to worship and lay down and call out Jesus' name, knowing that you're looking at a blonde haired, blue eyed soul, brother, I would say you need to change your gods. If not, find one that look like you. But we have to come clean. And we have to stop this nonsense about, I'm not worshiping any idol worshiping. I'm not worshiping any statue. There's no idol worshiping going on with the African faith. You are just getting a chance to have your orishas right there as your angels to assist and aid you in addition to talking to God. You got a double whammy, baby. You got a chance to call on your orishas and please them and give them the desires of their heart, and then watch them work for you. Watch them open every door for you and show you kindness. You can't say that with Christianity. You got one shot, and that is with God. Okay, but you can't get to God until you go to Jesus. Now you got to go through and make sure that the so-called priest that go in to send your prayers in, you got to make sure that his life is clean. Because if his life is not clean, they're going to pull him out of there with the pomegrams, and he won't even be able to get your prayer through. Didn't somebody tell you that Jesus died on the cross as the ultimate sacrifice so that you could go boldly before the throne of grace? And when you go boldly before the throne of grace, you can make your own petition, darling. That is why you have your own personal God in the African faith. You could go to him and say, look here, God, I just woke up. I just remember that I need this to be taken care of. Are you going to be free on Friday? Can we do this thing or what? Sure. You know I'm always there as a bosom buddy. He's going to be there. You ain't got to wait and be on no waiting list to see if he's going to come and help you. And he's not going to get hung up in the traffic because he got all the millions of other sisters to take care of. This ain't no one God we talking about. This is your individual God. You are the temple and your body is the temple. And God resides within each of us. And he's put a little bit of himself in each and every one of us. That is why he could never leave you nor forsaken you. Did I do a good job on that? If I did, please call me up. You can reach me on my straight line. Hold on. You can call me on this line and you can let me know if I did a good job or not. And that number is 760-539-3247. Why don't you pick up that phone and call in, because we get ready to get into some heated discussion right about now as soon as we come back from commercial. Welcome back, family, and thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. You've got your Omiinka 7 live coming to you from Oracle Divination Network on Blog Talk Radio Station. And we're getting ready we're going to be doing our Bembe. I'll be introducing the Bembe. And this is our second time introducing the Bembe dancing and Yoruba songs and music. And we are also going to be kicking it up. So you ought to come out and do the doggone thing with us, because we'll be celebrating, and we'll be inviting some of our longtime guests to come in and to feature our show and to grace our stage. And we'd like for you to come. And for those of you who are on YouTube and don't know when I'm on this channel, go down below and ring that bell, and that'll give you an indication. We don't have a set time right now because we're vacillating between these two stations here. As you see me juggle with the phone on one arm and on the other arm holding the camera. Yes, we are about to come up on our 10th anniversary. And YouTube, some of you have not been doing a very good job of subscribing. I don't bite, and I don't ask you for any money. Just go and subscribe. You don't need to be my friend. I'd like for you to be a subscriber. Once you subscribe, then you can adhere to all these topics that we're talking about. We're about doing something here. And as you know, we are building a nation. We are going to be pushing for our IFA nation. That's right. We need a house. IFA house, and we're looking at that now, where we can do well and we can have our meetings and our discussions and our longhouse, like the Indians used to have, where they would go and teach the culture and teach the art of the culture, and they would go and break bread together and speak their language. Yes, we need to be speaking our Metanetter and Ifa language, and we need to come together because we know there's strength in numbers. And a lot of you are outside of the will of God, and you've been struggling with Christianity and you haven't gotten anywhere, and you're looking for a group that you can fellowship with. Well, you can fellowship right here on the Oracle Divination Network, and you can come to our room and you can sign up. It's free to become a member and also become a follower on my blog talk. We do a lot of fantastic things there. And we were doing movie night on Facebook. And right now we are waiting to get our Facebook functioning so that we can do some other things there. But in the meantime, you can meet me also on YouTube. And we are going to be supporting one another and helping people get credentials and training, as well as those women who want to do remote work from home. We've been working on that so we can get these mothers at home so they can be a better wife, and then therefore your husband could be a better man and go out and provide for you while you work that business from the home. How can we have a good balance of life if the woman is out trying to advance the man and no one's home and the village taking care of the house? That's how they want it to be. Because if you are struggling trying to get a promotion and get that advancement, then your house is going to pot. And don't tell me that you can juggle that around unless you got another wife at home or a maid. I know, because I had purpose in my heart to be the best wife that I could be. And anything after that, as far as a job, it had to come from me working my business from my office at home, because those children come first, and you have to put the time in with them. If you don't want imbeciles to be graduating from high school, you need to be at home, working from your home, going to those meetings, engaging yourself as a den mother of that classroom, supporting those children so that those grades will stay up and so that they can graduate with honors. That's right. You want your children to graduate with honors so they can go off and be anything and all that they want to be. But you can't do that if you're out perpetrating a job. A woman's place is in the home, true enough, but she can work a business from her home. But she cannot have people coming to visit her and everything is in a disarray and there's never any food in the kitchen and the children are unorganized and her man is fed up. If you want to keep a good marriage, the first thing you have to do is vow give a commitment to being a housewife and managing that house, because the house does not take care of itself. Somebody has to be there to work with it because it has a heartbeat. And when things are in a disarray, you better believe that marriage is going downhill. I can say this to you because I had 38 good years of being a wife to my husband and being committed to raising my children. So it's important that you put that high up on your list. And that's one of the things that we're going to do in our group discussion when we come together in our home or in our house online, where we talk to them about the traditional African way of life. Yes, didn't you know that was a traditional way of life? For the woman to prepare the meals, freeze those meals so that there's never anyone coming home without a plate of something to eat, because there's food always in the freezer, and the shopping and the laundry has been done, and the husband's not sitting up late at night trying to help his wife out because she's working too. No, her first job is at home. That is where she's supposed to start working, and working with those children when they can't read and can't sound out a vowel. So, yes, women, I'm talking to you. It wasn't meant for us to be off in the arena, off to the races, competing with our husbands. It wasn't meant for that. We were meant to glorify our home, and when we needed to go out to see some land that we wanted to purchase, we could be that virtuous woman, because our houses were cleaned and swept, and there wasn't any woman creeping in between the sheets, and you were running things at home, and you were the colonel, and you were the corporate, and you were managing your household. And so when your husband came home, he knew he was the king of the jungle. Now, so much for that. What I want to say is that no Chinese person goes off and start worshiping in an African American church. No Caucasian will ever leave their Presbyterian church and start giving their tithes and offering to a Korean organization. It might last for a short time, but they'll soon come to their senses and say, hey, my community is suffering. I maybe need to go over there to my community and give these tithes. They are not going to do it. Then why we as African American, who say that we are part of the African experience, we think because we were here from the first original people that these churches, these AME churches, they are basically the ones that we set up. We want to believe that we don't have an African faith. We do have an African way of life. Even the African AME Episcopal, they aspire to the African's way of life, with the African garb, the clothing, the food, the lifestyle. And that is only one of the reasons why they've gotten by, and they have been here for so long with a mission to fight in the Underground Railroad with all of the causes to free their people. But when we get into a Christian church and we think that all is well and we don't need to struggle anymore and we don't need to have those freedom riders to ride on things that are not appropriate in the community where racism still resides, then we got a church that is good for nothing but trampling over like salt. Because you have to understand the real reason why you set these churches up is so that you have an organization that is going to address the ills of the community. Our churches now will not set their foot out in a Me Too movement, or they will not come to any prison or to any courtroom session to free any of their community, black men or women. They're not doing that anymore. So we have to develop our traditional African churches in the home. That's right. Yes, I know about that, because the first church there that was set up in Elk Grove Village, or Elk Grove, Elk Grove, Illinois, was set up by myself and a group of 12 other men and women. And we pondered ourselves and we thought, why are we giving all this money to the other Caucasian churches, and why don't we develop our own church? And we thought about it. First, we had church in our home, and we took turns exchanging homes. and we provided a meal, and we discussed everything we needed to structure ourselves. And then we went on and started our own church by renting the YMCA after spending all that money in a Lutheran church to pay them for renting their lower half out. We soon learned our lesson and learned that it was important to have a church that represented us from the African theological experience. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying don't get caught up on this thing about church. And don't think that if you don't go to church, somebody is going to shoot you down and you're going straight to hell. You are the living epistle. You are the temple. And you must understand that Africans had no building to reside in. They went outside in the woods and they found God in the forest. They found God in the mountain. They found God near the lakes and the rivers and the streams. God cannot be contained in one biblio book, nor can he be contained in one building. So let's get off this confusion about where God can be found at. You must understand that the edifice that you are fixing up and putting all this money into, you're giving the preacher a write-off. And you're not seeing the type of growth you need in your African spirituality. You don't know the history, you don't know the diaspora story, and you don't know the struggle that the Africans are still going through now. And you have not attached yourself to the African struggle at all, because you say you're first world people and you're Aborigines, but you're not even following the Native Americans. So which path are you on? When the Aborigines start saying, we're going to convince you that you're Aborigines, I said, fine, now that I found that out, what do we do next? I mean, where do we get our way of life? What is our path? And where are we going with this? Nowhere. Because if they broke the treaty before, you better believe that there are no more treaties for them to give you. And no matter how hard you fight, you still don't have a way of life. The Africans have left us a way of life. They've left us a path that we can follow and that we can incorporate. And it's one that is ancient and eons of years old. And don't go telling me about the baby Christianity, because it's a newcomer on the scene. It's brand new compared to these ancient religions. Now, you can go right ahead if you want to and continue to let someone to convince you and Jew you out of your African religion and tell you it's no good, it is bad, it's blasphemy. But then check this out. Go and look at how many of the Caucasian men and women have gone on to become priests and priestesses and have become initiated in IFA faith. Oh, yeah. Somebody say, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They're fighting to get in there because they know it has power and it has a way of life and it can condition and change our lives. And they know that it has benefits. So we join organizations for the benefit, not because it is a customary thing to do. We join for the benefits. And if there are no real benefits, then you're wasting your time. You can provoke your membership. You can say, I quit, I give up. And a lot of us are saying that this year. A lot of Black people are going in on YouTube and they're giving their testimonies. I gave up my church, my organized church, but I didn't give up God. And they're coming out and they're saying, well, I decided that I didn't want to go to church anymore. You are hearing this from every aspect. So what is really wrong? Were they worshiping the wrong faith? Did they not find their Black African selves in the Christian persuasion? Did they find out that all of these guys in the Bible that wrote the Bible, they weren't inspired at the same time? And did they find out that Paul wrote the majority of the Bible and he was the one that was crucifying Christians? See, a lot of stuff that they don't check the history on, and they don't know the foundation of the pages of the writing of the Bible. And they don't really know if King James Version is the right one or not, the New Testament or the Old Testament. How can you contain God in one book with the New and the Old Testament? God can't be contained in one book. That is why you find all these other faiths, they have supplemental books to work from. They have additional books like Hebrew Honey, the Concordian Strong. They work with many other Bibles. And they use the Hosea, the coming forth by day and night. Also, Medineter 1 and 2. When you are doing a study, you need many books to unlock the truth. How can you have the truth in one book? You must be out of your mind. God would be, he would be infinite. God is infinite. There is no number of pages that you could subscribe to write God down in your Bible. So why would you think that you could run around with one book and it would contain all that God is? It's not possible. Now that I've got that clear, and you got an understanding of where I'm coming from, I can stop the sarcasm. Yes, I know. This is sarcasm on a Saturday evening, just to get you to start thinking that how could you assume that somebody loved you that didn't look like you? How? How could you think that it was the Jesus who died for you when many of your people are being killed, all in the name of being black? That should tell you something. If there are more persuasions of people carrying over vials of corrupted poison to put into these little test tubes to kill off black people, that should tell you that they are trying their best to eliminate you, to reduce the population. So what makes you think that you are going to be led into their heaven and given the benefit of the doubt because Jesus is a white man and he's now integrating churches? No, not on your life. You were supposed to get your own church and your own service and do for self. But you kept thinking that somebody wanted you to have a Christian church where you can integrate and you can all hold hands and you can be of different faith. Even Dr. Martin Luther King knew that that was not a good tactic, and he knew that that was not going to succeed. When he began to realize they wanted to take him out for wanting to integrate. But nevertheless, you're still talking about the voodoo religion being bad. The word voodoo itself does not mean bad. But yet you got other people telling you, stay away from that voodoo. Those people are worshiping their ancestors over there. Stay away from that voodoo. It's bad. Well, voodoo is what helped the Haitian people. It's what helped them to win that war. When Jean-Jacques Dessalines was there, Boukman Dadi, when Toussaint Louverture came in the picture, they all figured it out. That if we could release ourselves from this Eurocentric thinking of church, we could free ourselves overnight by embracing our communal ancestorship religion. If we could just reach out and call our ancestors, that they would come and that we could win this war, and we didn't have to call on an unknown God. We can call on one that acknowledges us as their family. Do you not know your mother and father is the closest thing to you? And your mother and your father want you to prevail. You're the sum total of why they came. So if you didn't do anything else but call on your mothers and your fathers and your deceased loved ones, they would come around you. At least listen to what you had to say, and they would try to figure out, how can we help this dear child? How can we go out and do for this child now that we are three-dimensional and we can go through walls? We can go over there to that bank and straighten things out, and we can go up to that school and we can slap a few faces and straighten some people out. We have that ability. They work for you. They are your assistants, and whatever they didn't finish while here on this earth, and if they can get that finished, they will go out and complete the task. You and your ancestors are the closest thing to God. Why are you still looking for a spook God out there who doesn't know you by name? And Jesus don't know you by name. But at the same time, you are overlooking your ancestors, ones who love you, who care for you, all in the name of saying, I'm going to get this right. I am not going to call on any ancestors. You better call on some ancestors because they're the only ones that are the closest thing to you. Because right now, you're casting your lot to someone who, no matter how many tithes you give, you cannot get a prayer through with just tithes alone. You must understand, you must get to know the mind of God. And sitting to know the mind of God through meditation is better than using a behavior modification where you're begging God like a bellhop to do things for you. We got this thing all wrong, and we are confused. And now when we see our black brothers and sisters all dressed in their garb and they're coming to know more and more about the persuasion of the African religion, traditional faith, when they're coming closer to understanding how they can use the power of the tongue to fight off carnal weapons, how they can use their religion to grant them the desires of their heart, you're finding more and more African people coming into consciousness and wanting to worship in a faith called traditional African faith. Now, if you haven't already done so, you need to go out online and check out some of the African traditional classes. They are fantastic, and they're well put together with scholars who have skills behind them, and the Baba laws that are teaching the classes, as well as the priestesses and the Inyalades and the Petty B's that are out there that are teaching these classes. They're doing an overwhelmingly good job in explaining the history of our ancestors and understanding the way of life. The way you get up and wash your face in the morning, instructions of which songs you would sing to God, and doing the corporate prayer together. You need all these things because we are lost. We've lost our standard, and we don't have a standard to lift up, and we need a standard to help us to better engage ourselves to get back on the path. We've been running after everything but God. We've jumped up and ran into the Christian churches, and now we are being led by a group of false teachers. And these false teachers are leading us right to our grave, and yet we think that we can get a prayer through there. You're not reaching God if you don't realize that He is not your black African God, because He must be, and no pun intended, we must seek a God that looks like us. And quit telling me it doesn't matter. If that is the case, then why don't we slip Him from white to blue-black? If God suddenly became blue-black to all of us and we no longer wanted a white God in our churches, someone would create some sand. They would raise some hell. What do you mean He's been your God all this long? But you have to understand that it's a form of brainwashing to convince you that it's okay to look at someone who does not look like yourself and believe that they can provide you with all your needs. They won't. They can't, because they're too busy servicing their own. But don't go telling me that you're in a Bush organization and that African faith is not real and that you should come away from it. And don't go telling me that we cannot practice our Kemetic lifestyle or our African lifestyle for Yoruba. We have to be Africans. At the end of the day, the only question is whether or not to be African or not. We fight with this whole concept every day. Are we going to wear our hair straight? Are we going to allow it to be kinky and nappy? Are we going to go in with our afros or not? Will this be a problem for my employer? See, we're so busy servicing the man that we cannot think of what we need to do to correct our own lifestyle. But it's very important that you should tell someone hands off your religion, because it's a personal thing when you decide on which path to take. It is a personal thing, and no one has any right to instruct you as to which God you to serve. And no one has any right to tell you not to preserve your African heritage, because we must go back to our African heritage if we want to prove ourselves worthy to God so he can say, well done, my good and faithful servant. Thank you so much for going all the way with me and being a part of this. And hold tight. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and you're in the room with your Omi. I am your Empress. I'm here to serve you. I am your Omi one. I am your teacher, and I am your advocate. Thank you so much for joining me today. And we're talking about adhering to our traditional African religions and talking about what are the characteristics of those hierarchies that are required to pass down the training of the traditional African faith. As I talk to you about the Baba laws, who were actually those, actually the servant of Olarum, and who was also a part of making sure that the community is balanced and that there are no disruptions or problems, bringing harmony to the community. And one who would actually do the readings, the oracle readings throughout the week, every 5 days, or sometimes they can do them more than 5 every 5 days, to see what the energy is in the community and what needs to be done in order to change the disharmony so that we can keep our communities well. That is why our community is so dysfunctional right now. There are no Baba laws in the African American community to be sought after so that they can come back in and put the balance right in the community. The pulse of the people is just blasting all over the place with destruction. There's so much death going on there, but most of our decent black people move out of the hood. But that doesn't say that we can't come into the hood every 5 days to do an oracle reading to make sure that we are balancing that harmony in the black community. Then we need to go and get our Inyanify, that person that works in duality with the Baba Law, who is his assistant, who actually is there to assist and aid him with formulas for tinctures and infusions for the medicines that he makes, and who is also there, who is an initiate, who's been initiated to IFA, and who is a priest, a high priestess that has the ability to work with doing oracle readings and divinations herself, to also better work with the community and balancing the harmony. She works right there alongside the Babalaw to assist him. He is the mystery God. He is the divine coach and teacher. He is the one that is the medicine man. He is the healer. And while we're looking at Inyanafai, there is an assistant for her, the Apetabi, who actually, there's a story behind the Apetabi where that story talks about the name of the Apetabi. Let me make sure, Apetabi, the name of the Apetabi, where there was a healer that had promised to heal a lady. And this is a story that was told, and he didn't heal her, but they got together and they actually cohabitated together and they bore a child. And that child was called Impetipi. And that is where the name comes from, I understand. But we also have this Impetipi. She actually governs the classes, and she does not have to be an initiate. And she makes sure that her husband is taken care of, the Babalaw. She's usually married to a Babalaw, and she takes care of her husband, and she takes care of any classes that are going on for those devotees who are not apprentice for the priesthood. They are devotees, they're worshipers, and she keeps them in order. She's a businesswoman, and she makes sure that the business is in order, and she carries on and helping the community. So we have some hierarchy people that actually work in this communal setting that keeps things running. Otherwise, if you had no one to delegate to, some lower half, then it would be chaos. It would be a monster. And that's what's going on in our Black community. There are no one calling you to your job. Now, how do you get to be called to the priesthood? Do you just show up and say, I think I want to be a priest? I don't think so. I think you have to be called to the priesthood. Someone from the priesthood must see your good works and look at your character and your lifestyle, and they must approach you and ask you if you would come and join them. That's how it worked for me. I was busy trying to be a Christian and doing my Christian work as an evangelist, and one of the traditional African young men saw the work that I was doing, and he had been instructed by the Chief Metahochi, to go out and approach me to ask me if I would like to be an Inyalade, someone to come in and help the women, to govern them, and to help manage and support him in his as an assistant. I sat down and had a meeting with Chief Metahochi. He came to my home, and also his assistant that worked with him, Adiimi, was his assistant, who approached me. They both were at my home for a dinner party, and they asked me if I would like to be a part of their establishments. I said, but wait, I have to get to know more about your establishment. I don't know anything about your establishment. Well, they indicated they've been observing the work that I've been doing and the ministry work that I've been doing. So they stole me from Christianity, and they wanted me to bring those skills right over to the IFA faith. And I wasn't very happy with Christianity at the time and was trying to find a way to make a transition. So this was the proper and opportune time that I made the transition. And because I was called into the faith, I was given my name, I was given a reading, an actual reading of who my mother was on my head and who my father was. And I was given a destiny reading. It was destined that I was supposed to be a priestess. And an Inyalade has to prepare. That's a big job. And I was a little reluctant because I said, I don't know what all this means. I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's what happens to a lot of us. We don't know our job description, and they don't have anything made up or written out, but then you learn as you go. But we've got to practice creating job descriptions. So when those people come into the faith, they are ready to go and they can follow that curriculum and follow it to a T and start the process of recruiting others. Right now, the African faith is sort of behind in time when it comes to technology. But we must remember, they are now catching up with the high technology that they existently have. Some of the traditional African faiths are incorporating those into their e-teens. They have electronic e-teens. Would you believe it? And they still are using the e-teen chains is what I'm referring to, but the e-king, I don't think you can replace those because they have to have the mouth and they're the only seeds that speak. Now, nevertheless, I want you to understand that women do things in duality in the Yoruba faith, and they practice doing the oracle reading just like the men. And this is one of the organizations that respects women and allows women to come in and do things in duality. What a refreshing situation. Whereas women have strived so hard in the in the religion field to find her place in society. Sometimes in some churches, they won't even let her come to the pulpit to preach a message. So why would so many hats be in the church? That is because they love the brethren and they love the fellowship. But there's been so many discriminative things that have happened in the Christian churches where Black women have been put behind and they have slowed up their progress. And I'm surprised that they're still sitting in the front pews and they're still supporting the churches, even though there's been a definite push to eliminate the female from advancing in the traditional Christian churches. Now, I want to say for the record that it is easy for us to sit down in our community, get groups of people together and have a meal. Usually things go well with the meal, but you want to get some structure. You want to get some order as to who is going to be running things and whose home will this event be in. So a lot of structure has to take place. And I know a lot of people are looking at cottage home churches and they're walking away from churches and they're best serving themselves with working with groups of people from their home. It's not impossible to do, ladies and gentlemen. People are doing it every day. And you can give a name to your particular house and you can bring in your various different people and put them through the training so that they can all aspire to be priestess and go after their eleke bees and wear the garb and then begin to practice a lifestyle in their home. But you certainly can't expect a set of bees to change you. You must have an Ori infusion. You must have a head washing, and you must work on the attitude and your behavior and your conduct, because IFA requires Iwa Pelu, good character and good conduct. It's not about just drafting any old person into the organization. They have a lifestyle of responsibility to own up to and a way of conducting themselves, because IFA is only interested in your character. Are you building your character? Are you making sure that you exemplify a Christ-like attitude? Are you living the lifestyle and not just wearing the garb? A lot of people think this is an easy, quick way to fix problems just by wearing the garb and walking around with your chest puffed out. But it's not that kind of religion at all. You have to be in tune with learning your materials and understanding the poetry of the reading of the stories so that they can understand the odus and then how to do the actual divination, the readings, the odus. What does it say? And you must understand you have to do a thorough training of yourself so that you'll be able to be a mentor and mentee. Now, I asked the question about, do you need a mentor and mentee in this organization? Yes, you do. You need to find someone who could be your godmother or your godfather, someone who would take the time to mentor you, to teach you the basic, give you a handbook, because there is an IFA handbook, give you a handbook and the divinations and allow you to start the studying. Studying, first of all, to commune with yourself, studying to understand how you have to have a prayer life of meditating so that you begin to do the work on yourself. So many of us go out to try to attempt to do work on others when we have not applied those changes to ourselves. So it's very vital that we do a very good job on ourselves and let our light shine. But we cannot do that when we're busy trying to be pompous and proud. This is not the kind of religion you come into so that you can be somebody. And if you do get to be a priest or priestess, you need to humble yourself. You need to come down a few notches, and you need to be able to do ballet the chief when he comes in the room. Don't go saying, I'm an Nyalade or I'm a Babalaw and I don't need to do ballet him. When you see an elder that's high ranking than yourself, it's no different from the military. Bow down when you enter in my kingdom. Bow down. Do ballet somebody and don't be angry about it. That is the most difficult part, is to get someone to humble themselves when they build themselves up with pride. They think that they are measuring up to an elder who is ready for his ancestorship. You must give that elder his prompts. And you must understand that you cannot go around pompous and proud and saying anything to anyone that's out of order just because you have made it through the priesthood. You're still an Ewo. You're still a training, and you won't ever stop training, and you cannot make someone think that you have arrived. That's one thing about IFA. We never arrive, and we are always in the student mode, always perpetuating like Africans and trying to advance ourselves. So in that situation, you will never arrive. So you will always be an Ewo. Now, an Ewo is like a student, someone just starting. So most of us have often said, we're just starting. We've only just begun, because there's so much more that we have to acquire and so much more knowledge that we have to partake of. So yes, you are going to need a mentor, someone that can take time with you and show you things and implement things in your life, someone you can trust and depend on, somebody that you can believe in, somebody that you really believe wants the best for you. So as you prepare to do this and get yourself ready and understanding that there is no such thing as you doing it by yourself. This is a communal lifestyle. Everyone is helping each other, and you are one unit. And the Africans believe if you start together, you will end together. They do not believe in leaving anyone behind. Now, as far as going over to Africa to be initiated, that's not necessary to have the persuasion and belief system. No, you can have that persuasion right here in the continent called North America. But it would be good at some time in your life that you did make a trip to Africa, and that's what I'm planning in my lifetime. But nevertheless, you are still Africans here on this plane, even though you're not over in Africa, the diaspora of Africa. Now, when you find out that you have a mentor, you must be respectable and be timely and act like a student that's enrolled in school, because that mentor is taking up time with you, and they're showing you and allowing you to travel with them and giving you hands-on practical skill. Because this is the only way you'll get it, because you just cannot go into a class and complete all of the theory and the documentation, but have no practical skills or hands-on. You have to have clients, and you have to be able to service the clients, and you have to be able to assess them, and you have to be able to prepare the medicines that they need, if it's fusions or tensions, and if you're preparing oils or bath salts or soaps, you have to know how to do all these things. So it takes years and years of training to get the understanding of what you need to assess a patient who might be sick, and making sure that your mentor is there guiding you all the way, because you cannot go in. If you're a doctor, you are a trainee. Now, some of these Babalawls have been at this for many years, and they know the formulas of the wild herbs and know the mixtures, and they know what to mix up. And they have done this for many, many years. So you're going to have to let them guide you as you just become their assistant until you're competent in what you're doing. So a lot of this is dealing with healing. So you don't realize you have to be a healer. You have to desire to help people. You have to have humility for those who are sick. And you have to be able to do like Jesus. Jesus was able to heal the people because he had humility. So you're going to have to develop your humility in order to be able to work with sick people, and a stomach for it. Because some people just cannot stand to see blood, and some people cannot work in a hospital setting. But nevertheless, there are other avenues for you. If you learn early enough that you just can't do the medicine, then become a devotee, or become a petty bee, an assistant, someone who is assisting the Babalaw. Okay, you don't want to become an Inyalade if you hate blood and cannot stand to work with people in prescribing medicine. But there is a great need to be a devotee, where you devote your life to servicing God and servicing Olodumare. And Olodumare would be glad if you were just a devotee, that you were going to praise him, acknowledge him, and worship him. But this is a fabulous, fabulous religion. And I have found that it's so similar to the Kemetic teaching, and a lot of it is just like the tradition of the Kemetic teaching, other than the names are just changed. But other than that, go with the flow of where you are initiated. They came and got me and designated me. So it had to be an act of God. I didn't know these people. And when they came and got me, I figured that I had to pay my alliance to them. No one else came and got me, so it wasn't fitted for me to go the other route. It was fitted for me to be a part of the IFA faith, because they purposely came and got me and introduced me to the various different people of the house, and I became a family member instantly, and I was a part of their regime right there in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They were my family, and they were my mentors, and I looked up to these mentors. And if you go online under www.montu, M-U-T-U, enterprise, enterprises dot, I think it's .biz if I'm not, well, .com or .weebly.com. You can see the story that I have prepared and written there about Adiemi, my first mentor and teacher, who came and got me and introduced me to Chief Metahochi, and Chief Metahochi sought me out because I was from Gary, Indiana, and he wanted to mentor me and pull me out of Christianity. And that is when my life began to change. There's a whole story about my initiation and training right there on that particular website, www.montu, M-U-N-T-U, enterprise, enterprises .weebly, weebley.com. And you can go there and read the story. And it's a pretty well endowed story about Chief Metahochi giving me my name and designating me as Omiinka. And I added the 7. So my name in the Yoruba faith is Omiinka 7 Zanu. Well, I guess you would say Professor Omiinka 7 Zanu, priestess. So he trained me for over a year and a half, And I spent time training there with the other women and the other students, and we gained so much knowledge. And I traveled with him as an Inyala day to assist him with other initiation. So he favored me and gave me the opportunity to become a priestess. I wasn't looking to become a priestess, but I did want to learn something about the Kemetic because I had met people there. But he was the one that saw something in me and initiated me and brought me into the fold. And after I went on my journey, he was impressed with the long journey that I went on across the water overseas, and that he said part of that was my initiation as well. So I was rather fortunate. Now, the Ileke bees. I wanted to say that the Ileke bees were very important, and he wanted to make sure that I had my Ileke bees. So he handmade my Ileke bees, and he consecrated each one of them, and he forwarded them to me so I could have them, so that when I work with these clients, I was working with clients already. I had clients coming to my home who were telling me about their distress in the military.